Everybody, me again, this time with my post-fight breakdown, acknowledging my picks for UFC Fight Night 239, Toaasa versus Tabor. Okay, bad night for my picks all the way around. A really awkward, weird card where everything was kind of goofy to me. I'll go over it in a minute, right? But gotta own your picks, right? Gotta own them, right or wrong. So, I was bound to have a bad week at some point. Mirart versus Barbarena. This is the one where I swung for the fences and said, hey, at whatever it was, 2.5 to 1 odds, Barbarena, Mirart. I don't have a lot of faith in either one of them. Barbarena, a lower mid-level welterweight, versus Mirart, a lower mid-level 185-pounder. So the longevity record that I talked about before on the earlier breakdown video, the preview video, was Mirart does hold some most submissions in the middleweight division. He secured that. I think he was tied for it before the fight. Couple other records he has that are just from sticking around for a long time, right? And I don't mean he's number one, but he's like second in a couple different categories because he's just stuck around the middleweight division for a long time. He's just been around forever. So at minus, whatever he was, 2.5, I thought the only way you could really bet was Barbarena if you're going to make any money. Mirart, of course, taking down Barbarena with some really simple takedowns, took his back, got a face crank submission 4.5 minutes into round number 2. If you're choking somebody and it's not under the neck, but you're on the jaw and you're pushing the jaw far back enough, you can't breathe, you don't get blood, and you pass out. A face crank by itself this way, it's not going to make you pass out. But having the jaw, pulling it back hard enough, he was able to get a technical submission. Barbarena passes out 4 minutes, 23 seconds of round number 2. So first pick's wrong, 0-1. Chason versus Konad. It looked exactly like the first fight, the one that I called in 2018 on The Ultimate Fighter. There were some scrambles, took her back, got her rear naked choke. That was it. It was above the throat for a minute. As soon as it slid under the chin, instant tap. Why? Chason is huge for the weight class. Absolutely gigantic. And when she's in good position, she's not going to let you off the hook. So these little scrambles with Konad, as soon as Chason was able to establish a dominant position, she's too big, she's too powerful, she's technical enough to hang on and get it done. And that's what we saw. And just a little rewind here. When these fights were initially booked, and I said this on a preview, a lot of these matchups are a little weird in that Chason just beat somebody she already beat 5 years ago. Okay? What does that do? Nothing. She's still in it, but it's a rematch of a fight she already won. Mirart beat up a puffed up 170-pounder who wasn't great in the first place. Fine. All right? He's now number one in submission wins in the middleweight division. Great. Fabulous. It's just I don't get where these people go with wins and losses. Konad might get cut from the UFC. Barbarena might get cut from the UFC, I guess. These are kind of loser leaves town matches for the old school pro wrestling fans of the 80s. But, I don't see where the winner goes necessarily. All right, this next one, I'm pissed off. Not going to lie. I will explain. Christian Rodriguez, Isaac Dgeren. I messed this up. I picked Dgeren to win. He was so dominant in rounds 1 and 2. Christian Rodriguez won round number 3, totally fair. I went to go get something to eat, whatever I did, came back. I didn't see the decision. I assumed Dgeren won. So I'm watching the next fight. And when I was going to do my prep for this and my radio show, I was like, Christian Rodriguez won? I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a typo for a second. Because Dgeren, I thought, housed him in round number 1. I thought it was a 10-8 round in round number 1. Second one was an easy 10-9 for Dgeren. Round number 3, Christian Rodriguez, came back and won round number 3. 2 rounds to 1. I thought Dgeren won this one easily. Easily. And then I checked it out, and I'm like, oh my God, Christian Rodriguez won this fight, which I didn't think he did at all. So he wins by split decision. Another pick of mine goes out the window because I picked Dgeren. I thought he was the better grappler and was going to do essentially what he did. Anyway, he loses. So, OSP, Kennedy and Juku. This fight was infuriating in real time as I was watching it. Why? Kennedy and Juku, a slow starter. Fine. Some fighters are slow starters. It's the way it goes. Throughout this entire fight, Kennedy Juku looked like he was sparring, but he didn't want to be there, and he had things to do, and was thinking about the next day. We've all had those days in sparring, right? All those days in jiu-jitsu where we're like, oh man, don't want to be here. I'm going through the motions. Whatever happens, happens. Who cares? It's just training. It looked like that, but in an actual fight. OSP at 40 years old seemed like he was kind of going through the motions himself, but he kept gaining confidence as Kennedy Juku just threw out these pitter-pat punches and strikes that meant absolutely nothing. No sense of urgency at all. No sense of, dude, this guy's 40 years old. Put the pressure on him and he's going to fold. Go after him. Make something happen, or else what are you doing here? I didn't feel that sense of urgency at all from Kennedy Juku. Of course, OSP landed a nice little slick uppercut that knocked Juku down. That was nice. But Juku had a million opportunities to turn the tide of this fight and didn't do it at all. And no sense in round number 3 of, hey, man, turn it up or you're going to lose and it might sink your UFC career. What happens? OSP wins a split decision and continues on at 205, and Kennedy Juku looked awful, and it wouldn't surprise me if he got cut after a performance like that. It was tough to watch as a fight fan. So I picked Kennedy Juku. That's another one that loses. Then Bryan Battle, Lusa. Bryan Battle is winning. He's winning handily. Round number 1, good range, good accuracy, good power. Lusa, good kickboxer, couldn't find a way in, was stuck on the outside circling and moving. Bryan Battle looked composed. He looked fresh. He looked like he was right in the zone. Everything looking good. Same thing in round number 2. He's controlling the range. Lusa goes in for a takedown. The thumb brushes the eye. They got on the replay. Lusa says, I can't see, and the fight's over. No contest. Of course, Bryan Battle saying, after they didn't get their hands raised, that you wanted out. They, little John back and forth. I generally stay away from accusing a fighter of quitting. I generally, because, it's just the first thing everybody says on the internet when there's a foul and somebody says, I can't continue. Oh, he wanted out and da-da-da. Bryan Battle was winning the fight pretty handily. It wasn't a one-sided ass whooping that he could never come back from, right? It wasn't that. But he was clearly losing. Took a thumb to the eye. And I've seen guys get thumb to the eye when they're checking their vision and they can't even open their eye. They're swelling around it. They can't see anything at all. And I didn't see that. His eye looked open. It looked like he could see. And every fighter knows, as soon as you say, I can't see, it's over. There's no coming back from that. So I'm looking at him going, oh, this doesn't look that bad. It should be fine. And then ends up getting a no contest out of it. I'm not going to accuse him of bailing on the fight, but his eye didn't look that bad. And he was getting, it was a one-sided fight up to that point. But the point is, it's a draw. So a no contest. So only one of my picks has worked out so far, Macy Chason, and then a push, obviously, in the Bryan Battle Lusa fight. Get your money back on that one. Marcin Tybura, Tai Tuivasa. Great comment from somebody on my social media. It says, man, he said everything right and then picked Tai Tuivasa. Yeah, in that I knew if Marcin Tybura could get this fight to the ground, he'd probably win. He has a decent submission game, and he's big. And unfortunately, it went the way of Marcin Tybura. I thought Tai Tuivasa, which he did, roughed up Marcin Tybura on the inside, bloodied him up, landed some good punches, but fell to a grade school takedown, simple double leg. And once he went to the ground, he did everything wrong. He made every bad choice. He didn't look like an accomplished blue belt on the ground. Gave up his back. From there with some ground and pound. And when you have a guy the size of Marcin Tybura on your back, that's it for you. All they have to do is put some hips in and get underneath, and it's over. And that's exactly what happened. Gave up his back, gave up a rear naked choke, fought it for a while, end up going out 4 minutes, 8 seconds into round number 1. Marcin Tybura gets the submission win over Tai Tuivasa. So one of my picks went well. Guy had one draw, push, whatever. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 not go my way. Terrible card for me, but a really just strange night, man. A lot of weird fights on this one, and a lot of them didn't go away. I completely disagree with the Isaac Dgeren decision. Say what you want about that. If you think it's the right call, let me know in the comments section, and I'll be on to make my picks for the next one, and can't get a whole lot worse than tonight. So the next one will definitely be better. Have a good one, guys.